Chuck, lead us off.
So today's episode, we're talking about inspiration in the American dream and things that inspire us, but also things we've done to inspire others. And we have a very special guest who is known as Mountain Sage. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes I think Sage Mountain, and I can't remember which one's which. And we have his service dog and good friend Sam. And so, Mountain Sage is someone who's a special individual, has served a total of 26 years between the Marine Corps and the fire department. What state were you in the fire department?
Rhode Island.
Down in Rhode Island?
Yeah.
So, 26 years, that's a lot of service to present to the community, to your nation and stuff. So first, I want to just ask you, why did you join the Marine Corps? What was your desire to get from that?
Well, I don't know. Thinking back, let's see. I was always looking to be more disciplined and so forth, and I had a lot of drive and was pretty athletic, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. But actually, I had a good friend that did a couple tours in Vietnam. And he was very influential. Him and his wife. His wife was my fourth grade school teacher, and he.
Wow.
So he ended up being my Sunday school teacher.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like, and he'd bring in little movies that he took in Vietnam, and he was just an amazing person, you know.
So you got that inspiration almost immediately to join the military and the Marines specifically.
So I would say, yeah, he was very influential in that end.
Now, when you got out of the Marine Corps, why did you decide to pursue being a firefighter? Like, what was...
Well, I actually got out and I went to school and I went to seminary and I was going down that route and then...
So again, because I remember, but I did not know until asking you, what is seminary? What is that?
It's like...
For those who don't know.
It's like theology, but it's more than just a study. It actually turned out to be a study of words and a study of to prepare one to be a minister or a priest or a missionary or something like that.
So is it religious based? Is it based for one religion or?
Well, that's the curious thing about theology in Western culture is it's the judge and the jury are the same, you know? I mean,
okay.
It's like everybody seems to think they have the answers. And there's only one way, but there's many paths that lead to the same truth. So I ended up leaving seminary and going home to Rhode Island and helping a friend, and we were building log homes for a while. And then I was still had the biblical perspective of things in my mind, and so I thought, well, if I wanted to be like Christ, I wouldn't be going to seminary and spending all my time learning about words and doing word studies.
Okay.
I'd be helping people. And then I thought, well, I'm not there anymore. What can I do now? And I thought, well, if I got on a fire, and I was working construction for a while, but while I was preparing I was on a list for the fire department. And the reason I was there was because I thought I can, do what Christ would do, and it seemed to me that he spent more time healing people than he did preaching at them, you know what I mean? So
this was your way to serve your community.
Stay in that same thing, so.
Okay. When did you retire from the fire department?
2010, yeah.
So 11 years you've been retired.
Yeah.
Wow. And so for anybody who's watching and listeners who can't see, Mountain Sage has a condition that causes uncontrollable shaking and convulsions, and it's also known as Parkinson's. But there are many famous people who have it. Michael J. Fox, what's the boxer there? Cassius Clay, also known as Muhammad Ali, have this condition, and it's a neurological condition, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long ago did you find out about that condition that you have?
It wasn't labeled until In 2016, I was a professional diver in Newport Harbor, Rhode Island. I was working on the mega yachts and race boats, and I loved it. I was working dark to dark all the time, and just like it was just demanding, and it was just right down my lane. And before that, I spearfished and free dove and stuff like that, but I wasn't making any money. So I finally went to work in the water because I was so comfortable there, and I've been doing that for like 10 years. And then this little voice was in my head for the last couple of years, and it kept saying, "You're unbalanced, go to the mountains." Very clear. "You're unbalanced, go to the mountains." So I was living on my boat at the time, and I took everything nautical out of the boat, and I put in like tree stumps for ornaments and different things like that, and put a fireplace in there.
So you
I had
kind
this-
of
I
brought
had
the
this-
mountains to your boat first.
Yeah, I had this sheepskin, and I would put meditation thing on the television thing there, the computer, and I would watch or listen to meditation music. I'd sit on this sheepskin in the boat in front of the fireplace and meditate, and put roots through the bottom of the boat down into the mud down at the bottom, which I was familiar with because I lived under the water for the most part. And but the voice kept getting louder, and so in spring of 2016, I literally walked away from my baby, which was my business, and the money and everything else that was with it, and all my equipment and boats and gear and everything. I just put them all in storage and went to REI, bought all the wrong gear, bought a train ticket to Georgia, started a very sharp learning curve
Yeah.
with a 68-pound pack.
And so for
Bought all the wrong gear.
a lot of people who don't know, Georgia is the unofficial start of the Appalachian Trail,
Yeah.
but you can start as far south
you
as
can
Florida.
go either way, right? But to finish answering your question, which was when did this start, tremors and Parkinson's and all, I have since learned what the symptoms are all connected to and related to. Everybody has different causes with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
It's a trash can label. It's not, a DNA thing or
Yeah.
whatever. And now I can look back all the way to the Marine Corps, to where I was leaning forward and walking into bunk beds. I was always banging door jambs in bunk beds, and I thought, well, that's just the way I ski. It's kind of like almost out of control, but you're still in control. And that's my aggressive nature and all this stuff. I was making all these excuses because that's all I could do. A lot of different things like that I noticed way back then. But then as the years kept going, they kept getting stronger, to the point where, like, the PTSD and stuff from head trauma, which I've seen in a lot of other veterans that I've been working with more recently, now I'm starting to be able to see how this stuff has all been lined up and just growing in me,
Yeah.
And in 2016, I made the decision. I only had a little twitch in my thumb then, and my doctor said nothing about it, so I was like, all right, whatever. And I just ignored it. And then, but I listened to that voice, and I went to the mountains, and I'm glad I did. And I wasn't sure where or why, but that's one thing I just want to encourage people. When you got something in your heart, listen to it. Your inner intelligence is so much more than your brain power,
Yeah.
So I went and started hiking, and just several weeks into the hike, all of a sudden this whole hand started shaking a little bit for different periods of time. And then by the time I got done the hike, my whole arm was shaking intermittently.
Yeah.
And then that was 2016. So I hiked the whole hike, and I did it really in a hard way. I was doing 10 to 14 days at a time resupply. So I was in the mountains for 200 to 300 miles at a time without stopping.
Wow.
And then I go in and resupply. But that meant I had to carry a heavy pack. So
Yeah.
the first 2 years I did it that way, and then it was just a little much because my condition was getting worse. So basically it started in 2016. I got diagnosed after I got off the trail. And
Wow.
then I'm not complaining, but it's been a downhill spiral. Nothing's stopping it. I've done everything. I've done almost 100 therapies, natural therapies and stuff, traveling around seeking help, and it's a downhill spiral. So basically, I'm not looking at the past and projecting that calculation into the future because it's very depressing. when I compare how I was Superman a few years ago and now I'm like falling apart. Seriously.
It's
So
funny, but it's not, because Eric and I talk about it with our own conditions and our own limitations on. And my father-in-law, when he was in his 60s, said the same thing. He's like, mentally, I want to be 21 again, and I want to be able to do this, that, and the other. But sometimes it is difficult to accept your personal limitations and be able to move forward and still be productive to yourself.
yeah.
So what does hiking do for you? Mentally, spiritually, emotionally?
Okay, it's totally amazing. It's the best part of my life. But I don't want you to get this idea it's like walking down a trail in the park. It's brutal.
Yeah.
To use the words of Wim Hof with his breathing techniques and everything like that. Oh, I love that guy. If you ever look into his story on YouTube, it's totally amazing. But he says the cold water, he refers to it as merciless yet righteous. So I started saying that about the trail. The trail is my teacher, merciless yet righteous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's merciless. I mean, when the weather goes south and it just beats the hell out of you, and it doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States or if you're a poor fella from wherever, it's the same for everybody. It's merciless yet righteous.
Or a Marine from Rhode Island, right?
Yeah, right. So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about, but
You mentioned tramilies last time we saw you.
yeah.
So, what do you feel are tramilies important to develop, especially for maybe newer long distance hikers?
Well, I think I've always hiked alone. I mean, I hike with people for a day or two or something like that if they want to chat or whatever. It's nice for me to be able to talk to somebody once in a while too. But overall, I've always hiked alone. That's why this year is going to be quite different with Sam, because the trip's got to be a lot about him, because I always said I'd never take a dog on the trail, but then I got this service dog, and he's such a part of my life, and he's such a great being to have with me. So I'm actually looking forward to it. And
This is his first time doing anything
this is
like
his first
that.
time. Yep.
Okay.
He'll be 3 in May. It was Canine Companions for Independence. Maybe you can see that or not.
Yep.
But they did an unbelievable job of breeding these dogs. They have their own breeding program, their own training program. So he's been under professional care his entire life. And in fact, the only time that he's been in other people's hands without professional care is since I've had him, like the 4 vet visits he's had. They actually take him away from me.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, when they bring him back, they're like, "This is the best dog, the most well-behaved dog we've ever had in our office." I swear they say that every single time. So he's super well trained, and the last year they pretty much trained him for me, on top of his other training, and so I'm pretty fortunate with this.
So there's something interesting about your service dog. So, and I don't want you to say it, but he has a specific name that you use when he's working.
Yeah.
And things like that. But when you have friends over or people over, and it's okay to pet him, that's where he gets the name Sam.
Yeah.
Which I think it has to help the dog to understand the difference between work and play.
Yeah.
But I've never seen that in anybody else that we've dealt with who have service animals. So honestly, I think that's absolutely an amazing way to, one, keep people who shouldn't be giving commands to your dog
Yeah.
away from it, but teaching him the difference from work and play as well.
Yeah.
So it was really cool that you have that going.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my little idea. I trained a lot of dogs, mostly German Shepherds and stuff in the past, but when I got him, I was just like, their training was so beautiful and perfect and positive and reinforcing and encouraging and everything that you don't even hear them ever say no to a dog. They don't go no. They never put emotion into their voice or anything. It's well, I'm not going to tell you all the training commands, but so when I say his real name, it gets his attention like that. Then I give a command one time, and he pretty much follows through.
And that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
You definitely had to do that the first time we came. He was excited because it was Eric, myself, and Jen, and we all have animals, and we, want to pet him, and he was fine at first, but when it was time for us to leave, you had to initiate that command to get him to lay down. And it was instantaneous that he went to his spot and he laid down and allowed us to leave without any other issues. But it really is night and day, right? I mean, when he says that name, it's...
Yeah.
So what challenges do you anticipate hiking with Sam?
Well, we'll just see how his feet do. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and you usually get some snow and ice at both ends of the trail, even if you plan it as good as you can. And then during the middle, sometimes you get drought, but you get a lot of hot rocks and stuff like that. So we'll see how his feet hold up. I got a couple of different kinds of booties if he has problems, and musher wax. I was just talking with the vet yesterday, coming up with a little first aid kit. You know, pliers for porcupines and
Yeah. So for anybody who's concerned, you're
Benadryl.
taking this into consideration.
Oh yeah, I'm taking
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, he's very special to me, and but I always emphasize. Here's something I wrote years ago, on the trail. Nature is what was it? Nature is predominantly and overwhelmingly benevolent towards mankind. It's not like it's a jungle out there and everything's waiting to kill you. It's the exact opposite. Nature is an extension of our inner body on the outside. The only thing separating us is our imagination and our skin, you know. So it's like there is no boundary between us and nature. We can't live without. We're an environmental organism. We can't live without our environment. Our environment can't live without us. So here we are, you know. And I don't look at nature as something that I'm in opposition or something that I have to overcome. It's the opposite of that. We're part of it. We grow out of it. We're not created apart from the environment and put in it. We grow out of the environment.
Yeah. So it's not an enemy to you.
Yeah, no.
And we've learned a lot about you in the couple visits, even in this interview thus far. But I do want to get to our main topic of inspiration and stuff. And I kind of want to go backwards, and I want to start with some of the things that you have done that inspire others, and then lead to what's inspiring you to do this trip. When we came last week, we had to come in the afternoon because you were doing something. What is it you do in the winter in your spare time?
Oh,
with
okay.
working with other veterans and
Yeah. It's since this has come on, I was pretty much all about myself most of my life, which probably most people are. I mean, we are selfish beings from the core. There's not much we can do about it. Something else I wrote: we do what we do for reward, to please those around us, or the deep down real you. So either way you look at it, you're still doing it based on a selfish motive, but it's not really all that bad. It's a world of contrast in this life we live. You got to have both, the hot and the cold, the good and the bad, to make things complete, you know. So what was the question?
what do you do during the winters up here for your free time?
So really, since I've had this condition, or since it's surfaced in such a profound way, it's very, I mean, I'm just going to say it's painful, and it's unsettling, and it's just worse every day. So if I don't have something to make it worthwhile suffering, what's the point? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So I've either gone after things that I could do to help others, or I've found out how to help others in the things that I'm already doing. And so basically, in the summer, I do what I can to help people on the trail. That's actually turned into my main objective. I love seeing people crushed on the trail, because I can get beside them and share something with them, and hopefully bring them back to life and get them to continue on, you know, or at least get them help or something. Not that I'm an end-all, fix-all, but I do what I can, you know.
No, absolutely.
And I accept help from others too. I've been helped by other people, and it's been wonderful. Because everybody out there is on a pilgrimage. It's like, you have no idea. They don't even have an idea for the most part. They don't know what they're searching for, or where they're going, or what's going on. But they're just out there, and they're so committed. It just gives you goosebumps. When I see people out there, it's not normal. It's people who are so close to nature, or trying to be, or whatever, and so honest, even if they don't understand what they're into. It breaks you. When you get out there, you get broken. You're not going to go 2,200 miles in a rugged mountain range and come out the other side the same person. You know?
That's a
Hopefully
fact.
not, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Ideally, you'll be a
but what do you do up here during the winter time?
Okay, so then in the winter I was like, well, what am I going to do here now, you know? So I started the VA, an occupational therapist at the VA was really on her toes. I was in a really black hole. I don't know what year it was, 3 or 4 years ago in the winter, and I hadn't started taking meds yet because I didn't want to take toxic pharmaceutical drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had just crossed that threshold of where I had to take the meds. I couldn't move. I was going to be in a nursing home by the end of the week if I didn't do something.
Yeah.
So I started taking the meds, and they helped a little bit, enough to get me moving. And so I went to the VA. This occupational therapist woman, bless her heart, she could see I was in a dark hole. And she said, you know, you should go up and with the sports therapy program, which I'd never heard of. So the Brockton VA hooked me up with a woman named Jen, and she was wonderful, and she said, you know, sending a bus up skiing. So I was like, all right. So I got on the VA bus, came up to New Hampshire to Loon Mountain in Lincoln, and I started skiing. Well, it wasn't the same as when I was in high school because I hadn't skied much since then at all, and
Well, you're not the same person either,
no,
right?
I know, and my body was like not behaving properly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting. I could turn one way without even thinking about it. When I go to turn the other way, my body wouldn't respond, and I'd be headed to the trees. It was, and then I'd start trembling worse than ever. It was like crazy. So I spent months just trying to figure out what was going on. But then after that first year, I was so excited because I could actually ski again.
yeah.
And I had instruction, and they were just wonderful. And then they said, well, when you get off, and I said, well, I'm going to go hike the trail again this summer. And they're like, oh, well, when you get off, we'll leave the door open for you. And if you want to go through the training program, you're welcome to volunteer up here with us. I was like, get out of here. So the whole time I was hiking, I was looking forward to that. It was such a beautiful thing. You know, it was like a light. And then I started sleeping in my van up here for the last 3 years, I guess, in the winter and sub-zero weather and everything else with no heat.
Yeah.
And where was the dog then, buddy? I could have used you.
Yeah.
But so I would, you know, just come up for 4 or 5 days a week, sleeping in my van, skiing and volunteering, and I went through their training programs. So I was I'm kind of like a volunteer coach.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I'm an instructor because I wouldn't put myself into that category, but
That would have been weird.
well,
Audio with no video.
So you're a volunteer skiing coach,
yeah.
but you specifically work with disabled veterans, typically.
Well, I work with everybody, but there are a lot of veterans that come through. They come up in busloads. This year is a little different because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's much less happening, but they kept it open and they kept going, and that's awesome. And take my hats off to them. But yeah, normally there's a lot of veterans come through. But I mean, yeah, actually this year most everybody I've worked with has been veterans.
So what kind of disabilities have you seen, without getting into too much detail, that you've worked with veterans? What type of things is it? Is it just like physical amputees, or what? Like, can you give us a variety of some of the things you've seen?
Anything you can imagine. See, it's adaptive skiing, so they have all this wonderful adaptive equipment, and so no matter what the person's condition is, they can get them out there and they can go down the mountain. It would blow your mind. They got some videos you can check out too, I'm sure. I couldn't tell you direct you how to get there, but one of the local stations has done numbers of stories on them, and they have lots of videos. So if somebody's completely paralyzed or can't move their body at all, they have these, it's called the Easy Rider.
Okay.
It's like a bucket that they sit in, and it's got skis underneath it, and the coach will take and literally ski that. He'll connect it right, pull it right up into his waist, and he'll ski that whole package down the
Oh
mountain.
wow.
Yeah, and
So cool.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty
And then-
severe physical disability. I mean,
Yeah.
to be completely
And I had there's people with Parkinson's that ski. They have walkers. It looks like almost like a walker, and it has its own little skis under it. And then the person will have skis on as well, and then the coach will be behind with tethers, straps that go to the walker, and he can literally ski behind them and turn the walker and help the guy turn,
Yeah.
so they can
Oh, wow.
communicate back. So the two of them in tandem ski down the mountain.
That's what we paid for.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Then there's other people who have, some use of their body, but maybe not their legs or something, and they can sit in a bucket and use 2 skis or 1 ski connected to the bucket, and then they have these little outriggers that they hold. The skis are only like, a foot long or so,
Yeah.
and so they use those in their hands while they're sitting down in the bucket, which has a ski on it as well, and they can ski down in that. And the people that are proficient in that, it's just amazing to watch. It's like they fly down the mountain and they have good control. But I tried it myself last year. I had a couple of lessons in it, and I thought it was extremely hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no way I was going to be just hopping in it and skiing down the mountain. It just didn't work like that.
It's not a get in and go.
But the people that want to learn it can learn it, and it's just amazing. So
That's awesome.
basically,
Have you?
there's people with all kinds of conditions,
How about mental and
autistic
emotional,
children, and everything else.
like PTSD or
Yeah.
moderate to severe anxieties? Have you come across any veterans like that? That this has been
Absolutely.
helpful for?
Yeah. That in my heart, that's my specialty, because particularly PTSD and head trauma and neurological disorders. There's things that are connected to those that I've been noticing, and I'm kind of like an empath, so it's like
Come in.
Hello.
Yeah.
so.
wife.
Hello, come on in.
In this transition of helping disabled veterans ski, does anything come to mind as far as things that some of these veterans may have said to you that you've helped change their life? Like any inspirational words that they've said to you, thanking you for what you've done to help them?
Well, everybody's really grateful, as was I when I was skiing with Neds as well. But yeah, absolutely. I can't off the top of my head tell you exactly what, but if anything comes to mind, I'll let you know. But what we were just talking about the
about
PTSD, head
and yeah.
trauma, and neurological stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that I noticed that connects all those together is we're all kind of in the same boat up there, and it's like instructors, if they're standing too close to you, like I would just break out into a sweat. I'd break out into a sweat. I didn't know why. It took me months to figure it out.
Yeah.
When people they're not trying to be overbearing, they're trying to be loving and caring. But my body reads it one way, that's the way it is. My
Yeah.
brain isn't
Yeah.
going to take it any different.
Yeah.
So, and I've noticed this in a lot of other people too, and being sort of an empath, I think I'm able to like feel what they feel. And then actually, when the instruction is too overbearing, see, we can't take a lot of words.
Yeah.
Can't take a lot of instruction. So it has to be back down to a different tone and a different level. And so being able to communicate with some of the veterans about that type of thing is helpful to myself and to them. It's actually been an exciting journey to figure some of this stuff out as we go along,
Yeah, that's really remarkable. All right, so I'm going to try and wrap things up here. And you told us a story earlier today about a picture that was taken of you on the mountain. And at first there was like 50 or 100 people up in this rock
Oh, yeah.
area. And we'll try and post the picture on
Yeah.
with the story. So can you just tell us that story real quick, and then we'll end with what your inspiration is to do this final hike.
Yeah, that was it's a really popular spot. It's down in Virginia. It's pronounced two ways, McAfee Knob or McAfee Knob. It's been in a lot of movies and stuff like that. Beautiful, beautiful site. And yeah, I went up, I forget if it was the first year or the second year that I hiked the trail, but there was had to be 50 people up there all over the place, and I had been dreaming about getting a picture for Dr. Robert Rogers with Parkinson'sRecovery.com out in Washington State, because he'd been such a help to me. and I wanted to get a nice inspirational picture and send it to him. So Parkinson's pulls a person over and down. It's very difficult to stand up straight, to be a proud Marine, to get your knees straightened out and your hip flexors forward and all that. So struggling with that, I had a picture taken up there. I was able to clear the mountain by making I quoted a few things, and everybody just kind of stood there like their jaws dropped. And then I asked them if they could just move off the point so I could get a picture for this greater cause really quick, and everybody was just perfect. They just got out of the way. It was like nobody else was there. But so the picture was me standing in an upright position with my arms up, like, you know, and my knee up, and standing on kind of on that point, overlooking the most spectacular view you could imagine in the Virginia ridgelines there. And it was just an awesome, to me it was an awesome picture because it was showing the opposite of what Parkinson's can do to you, you know.
And so that was kind of your goal, but what ended up happening too is you inspired all these other hikers who were just kind of BSing and to start going out one at a time, taking inspirational pictures.
Yeah, everybody got really quiet when I said my little thing, and then they all just silently moved off the point. And I found there was 4 through hikers, all grungy and stuff, laying around. And I was like, "Hey guys, can you help me on that?" Of course, they all jumped up, and one kid was good at taking pictures, and he did an awesome job. And so as soon as I was done, then instead of everybody just mobbing back out on the point, you know, one couple or a person at a time would go out, they'd take their picture, and then the next person would go out, and it was like it was totally organized, but it wasn't. It was just organized chaos, you know.
I love organized chaos.
So just to wrap things up, just tell us, the audience, people who are going to follow your story, what is your inspiration for this hike, for 2021 hike from Georgia to Maine? What is your inspiration for you to even do it at this point in your life and to have Sam with you?
What is my inspiration?
Yeah.
Just to keep moving has been pretty much the basis of it. It's like I do love hiking, but at this point in my journey, if I stop moving, it's going to be the end. I can just tell. And that, as a side note, when I look back again now, with this knowledge implanted in me, I can tell that the reason that I've always done the craziest, most combatant or active activities, extreme sports and stuff like that, and done fairly well at it, is not because people with Parkinson's are often driven in nature. I think it's the other way around. I learned that from Dr. Robert Rogers in his course, but I'm going to contact him and talk to him about this because I think it's pretty exciting. I think the reason a lot of people that have Parkinson's have the nature that I have is because they've had it for a good portion of their life and their body is trying to stay alive. And when I'm super athletic and doing really crazy activities, it creates chemicals, it creates dopamine, and I feel like myself. So I get up in the morning, every morning, even now it's worse than ever, but all my life I get up in the morning and I feel horrible. I feel a black cloud over my head. I can hardly pick my head up, and I just feel gross and horrible and incomplete. But so I would get up and I'd go for a really hard run. You know what I mean? I'd go for a really hard run, or I'd do some other major activity, and then I'd be like, wow, what a great day this is, you know? It changes that fast. I wouldn't want to be around people. I couldn't even go out to dinner or talk to people. It was just, you just wanted to go in a room by yourself or somewhere by yourself. But the more I moved, the more chemicals I created, and the better my life was. And even now, the meds that I take, I'm one of the unlucky, I've been told, the unlucky 10 or 20% that the meds don't really help the tremors that much. And I'm getting ripped apart by these things. But the more I move, big motor skills, you know, big movements, everything kind of calms down and gets into place better. But when I try to do little things, it just kind of wipes you right out, you know. So to keep moving is my goal. And when I get out on the trail, not only do I keep moving, but I feel better, and I get into what I call a trail trance. It's like, see, when you're in the mountains, we live in a fake flat domestic environment. Everything is flat. The parking lots, the floors, the walls. Even when we climb flat stairs. It does nothing for our bodies. That's why we're atrophying as a nation, and that's why our backs are bad and everything else. Our hips are bad because we're not building any stability into our joints. When you get into the mountains, it's the opposite, man. Your body is rocking and rolling in every different direction you can imagine, and that's what it's created to do. Your body, it's like if you walk on the beach with bare feet and you got neuropathy in your feet, you walk with bare feet all year long, cold and hot on the rocks on the beach. That opens up those elements of your feet, and your feet get better. Mine have gotten a lot better just from doing that, you know. So, and it's like getting acupuncture treatment just from walking. But that's what our bodies are designed to do. We act like we're supposed to wear casts our whole life, so we wear feet because that's what everybody in this country, we wear shoes on our feet, you know. That doesn't help your feet, that doesn't help your body. It makes your body worse, you know. So the mountains teach you to handle stability, build stability into your joints and your body. And the other thing is, like when you're walking in the domestic world, you're relying on your brain, your gray matter in your brain. But you have brains in every cell of your body. We are so intelligent in every aspect of our being that what I'm doing now is I'm utilizing those brains and the skills that they have. My body knows how to move, you know. I mean, I'm like a black belt and everything else you can imagine I got going on for fun and whatever. But when I'm in the mountains the first year, I was crashing into stuff and rolling on the ground. I'm like, how come I didn't pick my leg up when I walked over that log? You know, what's going on here? I didn't know what was going on, but now I know. And the thing is, when I'm up there on the uneven terrain, you can't think fast enough to say where you're going to put your feet next. You can't even, like last year, 2020, was the worst so far because there was no trail maintenance. And you couldn't see where you were walking a lot because it was all grown up, but it's just rugged, jagged boulders that you kill yourself on, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, and if you went so that you could stop and watch every step, you'd get there safely, but you'd starve to death in the process because you wouldn't get there in time. So you have to keep moving. So I'm flying through the mountains, and you get into this trance, and your body knows what to do. It's just totally amazing. You can't even see where your feet are going to go, and they're doing the right thing. And if you lose your balance or you wipe out, that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned about this. It points right to it. Like several times a day, maybe you may crash and burn because it's just going to happen when you're up there. And my body knows how to fall. It knows how to roll. It knows how to survive. And time again, it's just unbelievable. I could give you example after example of the most horrific falls. Not even injured. Sometimes I get scratched or cut or whatever, but nothing bad at all. And so it's just totally amazing to rely on your visceral, intuitive nature, your intuitive being that it has the answers, it knows where it is, it knows what's going on, and it knows how to handle things. And it's just like listening to that small voice that I said back at the beginning of this. It's also, that small voice is in every cell of your body. It's just kind of opening up to follow our inner being, you know.
So I have to say thank you, two separate thank yous. One for coming on and let us interview you, but also thank you for giving the audience someone other than our two fat asses to look at. So again, we will post pictures and how to follow Mountain Sage throughout his journey, starting hopefully in beginning to middle of April.
Hopefully, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Love you all.